Cool. So we are going to take a look at DOM manipulation. First, first big section of what we're doing here in phase one. So, um, so I'm going to do a little bit of talking, and then I want to do some stuff. So first, I'm just going to kick off with what the document object model is, or the DOM. It is pretty much what it says it is a JavaScript object, um, as a model that uses JavaScript objects that represent the document of the HTML page. The document is basically you got your browser window, your window object, and right inside that window object is your document object, and that's where everything that you see on the page, pretty much everything you see on the page, lives. Um, that has the HTML body, head, all your tags and stuff like that. Um, so why is the DOM important for us to use? Since we want to programmatically uh, look at, change, update right to the web page so we can make things interactive, we need some sort of interface to do that with JavaScript. And that's where that document object model comes into. Um, JavaScript defines it. Any browser that implements the JavaScript words, words just went away. The JavaScript specification are going to implement this document object model in this way, defined. If you look at the MSN, MSD, yeah, MDN, that's it. Mozilla Developers Network site, that's where the specification of JavaScript stuff lives, and that will define everything we need. Basically, what it is, it's a set of classes and objects that let us do all those things to the page. And it's available everywhere. JavaScript is available in the browser, and we're going to be using that to do that. Basically, the object model is kind of set up as a tree structure. So you've got your root. It's a kind of an upside down tree, I guess. You get your root that's like, here's where your HTML starts, and then inside that is going to be, oh, I've got my head and my body, and inside the body I've got my navigation and this paragraph and this thing, and everything has children. So there's nodes that have a bunch of children hooked up under them. They kind of go out in this tree. And when you look at the source of an HTML page, you're going to see that this is represented in HTML by these nested tags or nested elements. And those are how it's visually represented. Or I guess there's three layers, right? You've got your objects, your things that you're touching with JavaScript. Those get turned into basically HTML, and that HTML is rendered onto the page. And it's not exactly like that, but that's basically it. So yeah, so this is just a way for us to use JavaScript to look at and change what is on the page that we're looking at. Um, so yeah, let me share my screen and we can like play around with it a little bit. Where's my screen? Here it is. And yeah, my desktop, everything. Oops. Chat over here. Cool. Get chat over here, get the faces over here, hide the meeting controls. And great. So here's a browser. Um, yeah, let's just look at, I don't know, we'll look at, well, we can probably look at this page, right? So anything that you see in here is going to be a page, even the built-in ones. We can look at the elements. If you go to your developer tools, gosh, I don't even know where it's view. Here we go. View developer tools. You can either view source or hit developer tools or hit the JavaScript console. I always use the keyboard shortcuts for this. Um, so I don't know where the menus are anymore. But yeah, you're going to be using these a lot. So I always pretty much go to the console with Command Control J. On Windows, it'll be, or on Windows, it'll be Control Alt J, I think. On Mac, it's Command Option J. Um, and that'll bring you to these. You're gonna live in these here. What we want to look at first is the elements, and you can see this is our base HTML node here. It's got a head and a body. So if you look, think of it as that tree of nodes, you've got your HTML at the top. It's got two children, head and body in that order. And then each one of those contains a bunch of stuff. And these are not really what you're usually going to see because this is just the sample page here. Let's look at, I don't know, let's look at, gosh, what do I look at? Let's look at Amazon. You know what? Let's make our own page because everyone's going to have a lot of stuff on their stuff. Cool. Hey, I've conveniently got an editor here. Let's make our own page. So this is just a blank HTML file, index control shift. Thank you. It's an index HTML. And so this is what we're going to look at. VS Code has a lot of cool stuff built into it for developers, clearly. And one of the things is an expansion utility called Emmet. There's a lot of cool shortcuts you can use. And if you type just exclamation point and hit tab in an HTML file, it'll fill out a little skeleton for you. And so you can see it says, this is an HTML file. Here is our HTML root node here. Here is our head element. Here is our body element. And inside head, we've got some meta things that say what kind of characters this is using, whether it's Unicode or whatever. The title of the document, which will show in the title bar, and then we'll add stuff to the body here. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a nice H1. You can do H1 tab there. This is a header. And now the body has one child element. I'll put another one here. Paragraph. Some content. Great. So this is a little HTML page. How can we look at it? A couple of ways. We can either go to our browser and open it. So we can hit Control O and open it from there. I'm not going to do that. So all I hit escape and it all went crazy. You can do that. You'll have to reload every time you change stuff. VS Code has a built-in go live thing. So you can click this and it'll run a little web server in the directory that you're in. And so, yeah, you have to have a workspace open to do that. Another thing you can do is you can pop into the console here by hitting Control backtick up top here. That'll open a little terminal in the directory that you're in. I want to do that. Thank you. And so I can, hey, look at there. There is a node module, a JavaScript module called Light Server that I like to use. If you can do npx Light Server, if you have npm installed, and that should run in the wrong window. Here we are. Come on, buddy. Come on. There we go. Here's our page. Check it out. And the cool thing about both Live Server and Light Server is that when you change stuff, it automatically reloads stuff. And this is one of the kind of like developer workflow things that is super, super useful for me and for a lot of people. You're going to be making a lot of changes, making a lot of mistakes, fixing bugs and stuff, and making that sort of cycle of changing something and then seeing it and then going back and changing it, making that as fast as possible is going to 10 times your speed. So I do a couple things to make that happen. When you edit here, you'll notice that It's unsaved. You can hit Command S to save it. I also have my preferences set up. Uh, autosave. I have my autosave set up to on focus change in VS Code. And that means anytime, oh, look, it's saved. I make a change and I switch my window and come on. It has changed automatically. I don't have to save it. So this saves you. I've so many times lost uh, so much time to like making a change, going back and wondering why it's not working, and it's because I didn't save the file. Just automatically saves it anytime you leave the window. So highly recommend. So between that, so let me delete that. It's not saved, and so I can just switch to that window, and it automatically saves it and automatically updates this, makes it so super fast. Yeah, Kimberly.
There's a question in the chat that I'm also curious about how to enable the go live option in VSC.
Yeah. Basically, I just hit open this file. If you have a folder opened in the sidebar here,
Uh-huh.
open the folder with this one here. And so now it knows where you are, and now the go live button should work. Yep.
Okay, I'm not seeing it in mine. Is there an extension that we need to download?
Oh, good question. There shouldn't be. I thought it was built in, but let me make sure. Yeah, I think it's built in. Do you know what version you have? Or did you recently installed it?
I have version 1.83.1.
Yeah, that should be the right version. Interesting. Yeah, that should be just showing up down there. Is anyone else not seeing it?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
Weird. Um, let's see. VS Code, go live. Not showing. Check that out. Button's not showing. Right click on the status bar button, make sure that's selected. Should be an extension. Yeah. Oh, maybe it's installed but not showing. Right click the status bar, make sure that's selected. So, yep. If you right click it, it'll hide or show it depending on whether that's clicked or not. Does that show up for you?
Not showing up for me.
Are you getting a little pop up
Me neither.
when you
Yeah,
and that's not on there?
no.
Yeah, then I would say go to the extensions, which is this little icon here, and make sure live server. Oh yeah, maybe it is something you have to install. Weird. Why wasn't it showing up?
Okay. Will we run into any issues if will we run into any issues with regards to the code challenges if we're using live server?
um, I don't think so. Um, yeah, I don't think so. I don't recall ever seeing it. That doesn't mean you won't, but hopefully you won't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we kind of I encourage people to use light server or something. Live server used to be kind of a train wreck. It's a lot better now, so it's totally fine to use it. Cool. Was there another? Yeah, Zen.
Yeah, sorry, can you walk us through that one more time? And then also, how did you set up that auto save?
Yeah, for sure. So in your preferences, you can either go to the menu. I always hit Command, comma. That's pretty much any application will bring up preferences on Mac. And then there are a lot of settings, like tons and tons and tons and tons of settings, but you can always search for them up here. So I just search for autosave, and that'll bring up your autosave here. There's a bunch of different ways you can set autosave. You can have it not autosave. You can have it save every once in a while. I always set it to on focus change. So that means no matter where you, like if you go to a different file or go to a different window, it's automatically gonna save that there. Yeah, so never really have to worry about not saving. And then the live server, if you don't have it installed, go to your extensions here, search for it on the left, and then that will put it down here. You can right click on your bar, make sure that your live server is installed. I also have VS Code Pets. I don't know what that is. And then we'll let me close that there. So there'll be a little icon that says go live down here, and you can click that, and it should start it up, and it'll put the window in a different monitor, and then this will be running. And now, anytime you change this content, that'll update automatically. Is that working out for you? Or
Great. Yep. Thank you.
cool. Megan, did you have a hand up?
I did, but I figured it out. Thank you.
Cool. Great. Any other questions before we talk a little bit more about it?
Hey, yeah, quick question here. Are there any other Visual Studio Code extensions that we should install like now or that we should know about?
Wow. Yeah, great question. I install I guess the formatters are mostly installed by default. The CSS, oh, I have 19 installed. Why aren't you showing me all of them? There we are. Okay, cool. Formatters are always useful for me. I think the one I have installed is Option Shift F and will automatically format, compulsively do that. So there's a CSS formatter. I don't really need the Jupyter ones. Live server is good. The Python ones you'll need in 3 and 4, but don't worry about that now. The SQLite one will be useful in 3 and 4. And other than that, most of the stuff is installed by default now. You can definitely like poke through. There's a lot of recommended ones. You can Google for people's favorite VS Code extensions. I tend to not throw a whole lot of them in there, just because until I need it, and then I'll put it in. I should probably remove my stuff that I have in there now, because you never know, like stuff do with other stuff. Yeah, Hyra.
Sorry, I was on a different tab. Can you just show me what the go live looks like in the extensions, like the icon that comes up?
You can just search for go live there.
Okay. And which
Live server, that's it.
live server? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Any other questions? Cool. Yeah, so we can look at our page in our Elements console here and see the layout now. Bodies where we're going to be working in most of the time. That's probably extension. Yeah. Here's our header. Here's our content. If you want to put something inside here, like make this bold or something, bold, that will show up over here. Did I stop the light server? Maybe, yeah. There we go. Hey, there's our thing. And now we can look at, so this is now another tag inside that tag. So tags are going to get nested. The HTML that you're looking at should be relatively familiar now. If it's not, you will be very familiar with it in really short order. Cool. So this is the sort of visual representation. What we're going to be working with is the JavaScript sort of interface to that. So let's put I'm just going to make this out here. There's a bunch of different things we need to be able to do to work with this. One of the most important ways is to be able to select an element that we can work with. Let me attach a JavaScript file while we're here. I'm going to add a new file, index.js. Inside index.js, I'm just going to console log. Hello. And it's not attached right now. And we can see in the terminal in the console here, nothing happens. So we need to hook it up to our HTML. Anyone want to tell me how to hook this up to my HTML page? Yeah, go for it. Give away.
I'm gonna use a script at the end of the body,
Yeah.
but it's still in, or you can do it that way, but you have the risk of having everything low. You need to do a defer.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yep.
I'm spoiled by these modern times. We used to have to do a lot of tricks to make our JavaScript load at the right time. But we can just put a defer in there now. As long as you have defer in your script tag, you're always going to be good.
Yeah.
So
The other way to get around that is to put your script at the very bottom, just above your body, your last body tag, or your closest body tag.
The other thing we would do is put an event listener in the JavaScript to like wait for the DOM to be loaded and then do our stuff.
Oh, right.
This is so much easier. It's so good. So yeah, just make sure you have a defer in your script and you're good in your script tag. Sorry. So we're just gonna say index.js. Great. Thank you for auto completing that. And now when we reload the page, it should say hello. Every single time I do any JavaScript stuff, no matter what, I'm always going to put this in here the first time. Again, I've wasted so many valuable hours of my life trying to figure out why my JavaScript was broken, and it's just because I did that or didn't put the tag in right. So first time you hook up something, just put in a console log there, just to make sure that you are working in the file that you think you are. It will save you time for sure. Yeah, Azani.
Oh, you can also go ahead, Megan. I know you were before me.
Yeah, mine, sorry, maybe I missed how you created this entirely new like file or folder, but I'm trying to follow along in Visual Studio Code. And yeah, how did you create this new one that you're doing this testing?
Yeah, so over here this is the directory that I'm in, and I just clicked over here to make a new file. It's the new file button. You can also do Command N. I think we'll create a new file, then you have to save it and everything. I usually, when I'm in VS Code, I'll usually do it from here, and then just give it a name.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So my question was, when you were talking about inserting the JavaScript file into the HTML, you're saying that when you insert it into the head section, you need that defer, but if you insert it before the end of the body section, that you don't need that?
Yeah. So if we move this down here, so basically the reason we want to do this is we're going to be manipulating the DOM in our code. So if we just have it here without the defer, what's going to happen is it parses and runs everything from top down. So it's going to say, run this, and we're going to say, hey, grab this header and do something with it. And it'll say, here's an error for you. I don't know what that header is because it hasn't come down yet. So if we put it at the end, it will have theoretically done that. But if you put a defer there, basically that says defer running this until everything is all set up, and then you won't run into that problem.
Got it. So a quick follow-up to that. What would be the reason to do the head and defer as opposed to just always putting it, before that HTML closure?
Because often this will be, 100 lines, 200 lines, it'll be at the bottom. It's just easier to see like, oh, here's all my scripts up here in one place.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And like they're really, according to the, HTML spec, like there really shouldn't be more tags in here inside that HTML besides the head and the body. It works. So people do it. It's just messier. And some people might do them different ways. Some might put some in the head and some in the underneath, and just keeping it all in one place reduces the cognitive load there.
Got it.
Yeah. A reason to put it down there, if you are targeting much older browsers that don't support defer, pretty much any browser made in the last decade is going to, but if for some reason you need to like target Internet Explorer 4 or something, then you can't. You have a whole bunch of other problems at that point, but yeah. Yeah, hi, Ro.
When I was watching the video, they had put the defer before the source. Does that matter? Or like, is that important? Or like, it could be either or. So
Yeah. So to kind of dive into what an element is here, this is our HTML tag. The tag has a tag type, and it has these properties or attributes. These are basically, they're kind of like parameters you pass into a function that you're giving to this tag. The difference is that it doesn't matter which order they're in. So it could be before, it could be after, as long as it's after the script part, it's all good. Yeah, some tags will have a bunch of attributes, and it doesn't matter what order they're in. It will grab them all and do the right thing. It's a good question though. Awesome. Any other questions before we go? Cool. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about ways to select things. I have some preferences which I'll communicate when we're done, but there are a bunch of ways to select things. The first one, and the one that hopefully we'll be using the most, is get element by ID. This basically says, look for an element with an ID attribute. What do I call it? Header, yeah. So ID is an attribute that you can put on tags. It doesn't matter where it is as long as it's after the tag name. And this puts a unique identifier, and only one element can have the ID header. This is how I usually like to do stuff. So if we want to do that, we need to use the document object model. So we're going to go off the document object. Document is just an object that exists in JavaScript in a browser. If you're using JavaScript in another context like Node or something else, you won't have a document if you don't have a browser. We're going to be doing stuff in a browser, so you're always going to have document available. And so this is a method on the document object. A method is just a function that's attached to an object. And we can say get element by ID. We're just going to give it the name of the ID, which is header. And that will say, hey, document, look through the tree. As soon as you find something with an ID that I give you, send me that element object back. So let's see what that means. So since this is a function, it's returning something to us. It's returning that document object. So let's throw it in a variable and take a look at what we got. So I'm just going to say const header equals that. So when this runs, header should be that that document object there. And so we're going to console log it out. So let's see what we get. Hey, look at that. It has logged out our object. And we notice that in here, it's just showing us what looks like an element. This is just the way it's going to console log that out. If we, can I force it to look at the object? Maybe. I wonder, I don't think this is going to work. I don't think I've ever tried this. Let's find out. Hey, look at that. Great. I just put this in an array. There are probably other ways to do it. But if you look at it, here is our header object. and we can dive into it. We can look at all the things attached to it, all the methods, parent, the owner, all the stuff. You're never going to be using this stuff most of the time. Occasionally, it's fun to look through, and you can see the parent, which is the document. You can see, yeah, HTML document. But importantly, we've got our header. And if you're curious about all the things, we can tell what kind of object this is. Can we? OP. Prototype. Is a prototype in there? There's not. That's weird. Oh, HTML heading element. Great. So we can always go to MDN. MDN is a site that you'll spend an awful lot of time on. MDN is the Mozilla Developer Network that has all the things for all the JavaScript stuff, all the CSS stuff, all the HTML stuff. So we can always HTML elements. We can always look at the MDN docs for something. This is an HTML element object. I'll just do MDN HTML script. There we go. Cool. So this is the element object. Pump that up a little bit. This is the element object in JavaScript. And it has, like we saw, all these properties, all these methods. There's a lot of things you can do with it. You are by no means expected to know even 10% of these. I certainly don't. There are a bunch of things that we are going to be using often, like the selectors and whatnot. And if you need to, debug stuff or trace something out, or you're just curious and you want to poke through here, that's great. Everything about it is in here. The most important thing is where to look. So it's like, oh, how do I get the for some reason I want to know what the name of the element is. Can I do that? Class name, that'll give us the class name of the element. We can get the children of the element, which is going to be useful. All sorts of stuff, all sorts of fun stuff you can do. So if you ever get lost, confused, or curious, you can always go to MDN and see what's what in there. But yeah, look at this. We have get element by ID. That's what we use for it. Get element. It's not attached to this one, is it? Get element by ID. Oh, it's on document. That's right. Same thing with document. We can look at document, get element by ID. It's going to give us the syntax about how to use it. Get element by ID with the ID, says what the parameters are, says what it returns. There's our element object. And so this is a tremendous resource, not just for JavaScript, for HTML, for CSS, all that kind of stuff. Cool. So this is our HTML element, which means that we can now do stuff to it. But before we do that, let's look at some other ways to get the same thing. So I almost always do get element by ID. In general, I tend to prefer using IDs to hook up JavaScript to HTML and classes to hook up CSS to HTML. Why is that? So let's look at another way to get stuff. You can do it by class name. So let's give this a class important. And so now we can say const header equals document get element by class name. There it is. And the class name is going to be important because that we made the class. These both do pretty much exactly the same thing. If we run it again, oh yeah. Oh, so there's slight difference. It returns an HTML collection. That's right. Did I say elements? Elements. Get element. Element by class name. Elements by class name. So this will return a list of all the elements, or more accurately, an HTML collection, which looks like an array, acts like an array sometimes. but doesn't always. This is useful when you have a bunch of things with the same class. So if I had, let's do an ordered list, and it's going to have list item 1, 2, 4, and let's put a class on here. Class equals item. Very useless name. So now if we want to get all of those items and log it out, we're going to get another HTML collection, but it's going to be all of the items. So if you have a bunch of things you want to get that all have the same class, this is the one you want to use. We'll use this like 1% of the time. Sometimes you need to programmatically do stuff to a whole bunch of things with classes. Most of the time you don't. But if you need to, this is a way to do it. And again, it returns an HTML collection, not an array. You can most of the time treat an HTML collection like an array, but it has some differences. I think you can get like the length. Yeah, you can get the length, but you can't like do append or any array methods on it. So this is useful in certain circumstances. Yeah, get element by is always ID, singular, because there's always going to be a unique ID. Classes, there can be as many as possible. Yeah, let me add a little bit of CSS here for a second. Just to demonstrate kind of why I prefer these. So here's our get elements by class name. And I'm gonna get the first one there. We are not using that language. Boom. So cool. This is gonna give me there's our header, just like before. Let me add some CSS. So I'm going to add a new file by going here and clicking new file, index CSS. I'm going to attach that here. And this is going to be a style. Nope, it's not going to be style. It's going to be link. Jeez, when was the last time I did HTML? This is going to be index.css. Great. CSS is a whole other thing. We don't have any curriculum on it, and yet you are expected to do it somehow. It is a mess. You basically learn by messing around with it and seeing what happens. A lot of stuff can happen, but at its simplest, we are going to use a CSS selector and say something with a class, a dot, important, and I can give it properties here. So I can say color is red. Great. And I'll say, oh, if it's not important, color is gonna be green. Cool. So hey, this is important. It's red. Fantastic. Yeah, Udemy has some great CSS stuff. CSS Tricks has a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of good tutorials all over because it's definitely an entirely different skill, but you'll pick it up on the street, I guess. Yeah, Holly, question?
I'm so sorry. This is going back a little bit to something that you did earlier, and I might have just missed this in a previous lesson, but how did you add class to multiple list items at once?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, this is a VS Code trick here. Let me delete these. Well, I'll show you here. So when you select something, I just double click to select the word class, and you'll see that these other ones are kind of highlighted. If I hit Command D, it will select the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. And now you see multiple cursors there. So now I can move these cursors around. I can type stuff, I can delete stuff, and it'll affect all of those cursors. So what I did before, I selected the open tag li, I did Command D, Command D, Command D, and then said thing equals whatever. And so let me type in all of those. Yeah, little VS Code trick there. Super handy.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for stopping and asking. Zen, yeah.
Yeah, can you show us that? But from like the beginning without them being there, like how did like sorry, it just doesn't click how you did that.
Good.
Like,
Get rid of these.
did you have to write line every single time?
Cool. So what I did was, so if I just selected LI, it would select the opening and closing. So I selected the opening bracket and the LI, and then I hit Command D, Command D, Command D, and now I can use the cursor here. So now I can just type class equals item.
I see. So you would have to technically write each line item first, and then you can do the Command D part.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. That's what I was like. It wasn't clicking for me. Thank you.
And if you want to get into Emmet, which is really fun, Emmet, you can type LI and then tab, and it'll give you an LI thing here. You can also do something like this: LI curly bracket 4 tab. Oh, I lied. What is it? How do you do it? LI 4. Oh, there's some way to do it that'll give you a bunch. Nope. I blew it. There's some way to make it give you a whole bunch of ones. So, and you can also chain them. So if you do like UL, LI like that, it'll give you a class. You can have it give you a, oops, I want to do that UL. I mean, it's cool. Look it up. It's super fun. I haven't used it in a while because I haven't been doing HTML in a while. But it's got lots of fun little shortcut things there. Man, I wish I remembered how to do the multiple one because it's really cool. Yeah, Zen, do you still have your different question?
No, that makes
Okay,
sense.
cool.
Now that I kind of figured that out, I was just like, wait, did you create each line? So yeah, no, thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, oh, Emmet's really cool. I wish I had it more fresh in my brain. Well, yeah, cool. So we have a header. This header is important. It's red. And so we go along. We've selected our important element. Here it is. We've logged it out. Great. So we develop. A month down the line, we've got 100 pages, and design or product has come back and said, oh, you know what, that header, it's not important anymore. It's not important. We want that to show up green. So great. It's not important. It's green now. And we have this header on 100 pages. So we're just making everyone not important. So what happens? Now it's undefined. Now we don't get our header. Because we use classes for styling, they're more likely to change. And if you're working with multiple people, like some people whose responsibility is coding and some people whose responsibility is styling, classes will change more often than IDs will. So it's entirely possible that someone will make an innocuous change, say, oh, I need this button to be an alert button instead of a danger button or whatever. And they go through and change the style on these buttons. And if you're selecting those by style or by class, your code is going to break. In general, since these are unique, they're not going to change as often. If you are changing them, you're likely the person using JavaScript. And so you're not going to run into that problem as often. So in general, I like to use IDs for JavaScript and classes for CSS. It's not a hard and fast rule, and you'll definitely come across some cases where it's more useful to do it the other way. But in general, that's what I recommend through hard experience. There's some other ways to do selecting. There's a more kind of generic way that lets you select by anything. So you can say document, and this is just me, a query selector. And so these query selectors are more flexible, and they kind of more reflect the way that selectors in CSS are used. CSS, you can also you can also style by ID. Again, very, very strongly recommend against this, because if you're the one writing CSS and the developer who's using IDs changes the ID, your CSS is going to break, and that's terrible. So in general, I always use classes and elements in here and never use IDs in styling. Steven, yeah.
Because this script in JavaScript is deferred.
You're still really, really quiet. Can't really hear you.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit better.
Because the scripts are deferred, would the JavaScript overwrite any CSS?
That's a great question. So if the scripts are deferred, will it override CSS? So the C part of CSS is the cascading. It's a cascading style sheet, which means that basically it applies the rules in order, and the last thing that happened is the rule that sticks. So you know what? Wow, I don't know which one is true there. I would think that JavaScript is the thing that runs last, because it should throw all the elements on the DOM, do the CSS, and then apply the JavaScript in the next tick. Let me see this. I'm gonna do some science here and find out. So we've got important here. Yeah, so if we do, I'm gonna do this by ID first. Skipping ahead a little bit, here are some things you can do with an element. So this element is the same as the important thing, and yeah, there. So right now it's red, it's green, it's not important. I would like to make it, let's make it blue with JavaScript. So one of the things you can do with an element is you can look at the class list, and the class list is the list of all the CSS classes that are on that element. An element can have more than one class. And so I'm going to, oh no, I would want to add a new one. I would want to do the style, I guess. Style. Let's set the style. So you can get the style. I'm going to set the style color equals blue. Like that. Let me comment this out just to make sure it works by itself. Cool, that's blue. Cool, so let's uncomment that. I predict it's going to be blue, but I'm like 70% confident on that. Yes, that is blue. Okay, great. So basically what's happening is it's applying the CSS first, then it's running your JavaScript. The thing I want to test is, does it happen if I do that? Yes, okay, cool. So it's always going to run your JavaScript after applying the CSS, I think is the answer. That's a great question. I had no idea. Cool. Yeah, that's fun. Cool. So one of the things you can do is play with that. So quickly going back to our query selectors. Query selectors let you do a bunch of different things. You can select by ID, and IDs are always going to have that pound sign or hashtag in front of it. And so we can see there, great, there's our header. We can select by class here by doing a dot, so not important. Great. If we do, excuse me, if we try to select something by class that has more than one with query selector, it will give us the first one it finds. So this one here. If we do query selector all, it will give us a list of all the things with those node list. Again, slightly different from the HTML element list there, because JavaScript. And that's useful if you're getting a bunch of things. The other cool thing it can do is it can select by tag name. So you can select the first one there. And if we do all, it will give us all of them. the neat thing that you can do here is you can select, let's say we're selecting the UL here, and that's going to give us the entire element with all the things in it. Selectors are really cool. You're going to use them mostly in CSS because you can do, you can change stuff. So I can say, oh, give me a UL with give me the LI, the first LI that's in an UL, and it should give me that one there. I can say, give me a paragraph that's inside of a div that's inside of a header with the class blue on it or something. Never use class blue. And so you can get really specific with those query selectors. These are useful when you need to do some tricky stuff sometimes. So keep it in your tool belt. In general, you're always going to see me using get element by ID. So those are the selectors. Any question overall about that? And again, this is practice. You'll get plenty of practice doing this in the next few weeks. Again, default to get element by ID, and you should begin most of the time. Great. So now that we've got our header, what are we going to do with it? Actually, before we do that, yeah, one of the things you're going to be doing is making new elements all the time. I'm going to pull this list out here. We have a UL here, and it's going to be a list of sandwiches. Great. So we have a UL with an ID of sandwiches. We can see it in our element list here. It's empty right now, but it does have an ID. So let's go ahead and grab that sandwiches. And so now we know that. Can I see it in here in the console? I forget scope. Yeah, headers sandwiches. Fantastic. So say in my JavaScript, I have an array. I have an array of sandwiches. Sure. And this is going to be meatball. Getting hungry. Cheese stick. Great. So these are my sandwiches, and I want to take those sandwiches and I want to put them in a list item on that sandwiches thing. I can get the sandwich UL sandwich element sandwich list. Great. You'll find me being very picky about what I name things. We'll talk more about that later. Yeah, cool. So we've got the sandwich list here. We've got our element. Now we want to add all of those sandwiches on there. Anyone want to take some shots at how we might want to do that? Or if we wanted to add one thing to the list, let's break it down there. Yeah, Kimberly. You're muted still.
Sorry about that. Are you asking me to add another sandwich to const sandwiches, or are you asking me to add it to the page?
If you wanted to, I'm trying to use language that's not going to give it away. If you wanted to put a new thing inside of this here, inside of this UL, any ideas how you might want to do that?
Append child?
Yeah, append. And what are we appending?
The sandwiches list. So you want to sandwiches dot append child parentheses, and then I forget what comes after the parentheses.
Yeah, and there's one other important thing that we need to do first is we need to make the element that's going on there, because yeah, I think this is an important distinction to make. So the sandwich list, this is an HTML element object. This is an array of strings. If we try to put a string on there, we definitely can. Let's experiment with this. Let's play around with it a little bit, see what we can break. So I'm gonna take the sandwiches list, and I'm going to loop through it with a for each. For each is a function or method on arrays that lets you do stuff to each item on it. You can use arrow functions in here. Right now, I'm going to make a separate function for it. I'm going to say add sandwich. And so add sandwich is, in theory, a function. It does not exist in JavaScript, so we have to write it ourselves. So that's our function there. So now for each item in sandwiches, so for each one of these strings, it's going to run add sandwich and pass that in there. So I'm going to say sandwich there. So each time add sandwich runs, it's going to be for each one of these things. So the first time it runs, it's going to be add sandwich pastrami. Then it's going to add sandwich meatball. That's going to add sandwich veggie, and so on. So let's just, I'm a big fan of console logging. So I just want to see what happens to make sure this is going to work. So I've got my list of sandwiches. I'm going to loop through that with for each and say for each one of those things, add that sandwich. And then I'm going to have the add sandwich function just log it out just to make sure that I'm doing something close to reasonable here. Nope, sandwich is not defined. Did I spell something? Sandwich. That's it. That's why we do that.
You
Great.
spelled it different on the list also. Just curiosity, does that make a difference?
Oh, look at that. This is a perfect case for Control D. There we go. Thank you for catching that. As long as they're the same, it doesn't matter. I mean, I could name them, you know, blur, 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 blur. Yeah, it doesn't matter what's named as long as they're named the same.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, naming them what they are is very useful when you come back to this a month later and be like, what was I doing? Oh no, was I yeah, that naming things is super important. You're gonna be harp on that forever. Cool. So right now I've got my list of sandwiches. They're strings. I'm looping through it and just console logging each string, so I know that this is running for each one. Great. So let's try that append thing. So I've got a sandwich list. I can append. You can append child. I usually use append. They do almost exactly the same thing. There's a very, very slight differences that you'll probably never run into, but it's 5 less letters to type. So I usually use append out of laziness. So yeah, what do we think might happen here before we take a look at it? Oh, go with Kimberly. You know, thoughts on what that might look like? Wild speculation.
Say that one more time.
What do we think this might look like when we append each sandwich string to that that list?
I'm hoping it'll add it to the 1, 2, 3, 4 list.
Let's take a look.
However, I'm running into an error, so I can't figure it out.
Oh no, what error are you running into?
It says sandwich list dot append is not a function, so I've got a typo here somewhere.
Oh, yeah, that's why I like the console logging, just making sure that's a thing. Yeah, if it says it's not a function, that probably means that it's not a thing that you can append. So yeah, just double check that you've got everything that you think it is. But hey, look at this. We've got we appended the things, but they're all smacked together. And if we look at it, we've just added the text to it. We've just added the strings to it, which is fine, but not really what we wanted. So I assume that's a neighbor. I smell smoke and I assume that someone else has a fireplace going. So instead of just appending the string, the text, basically these are these are also HTML elements, but they're just text elements. So that's not what we want. We want to add some LI elements. So what we're going to do is each time we want to do a thing, we are going to create a new element, and we need to do that from documents. Create element. We just tell it what kind of element we're going to create. And that will be a LI. And now we can assign that to an item. So right now we'll call it item or list item. So that's going to be our element. We are going to list item. Now we're going to append our sandwich to that. We can also say the text content of that is our sandwich, since, and this is a more precise way of doing it. Since we're adding strings, it's nicer to explicitly say, hey, we're setting the text content of this thing to this string. We can still just append it if we like. This is more precise, and you'll run into fewer picky bugs as going forward. What we do need to do, though, we have a list item now. We've added the sandwich text to it, but they're still not showing up. What we do need to do is append that list item to our sandwich list. List, append list item. And now, magic did not work. What happened? There's our sandwiches, sandwich list, append, list item. What did we do? Ooh, exciting, debugging. So when I'm debugging, I like to break things down and just make sure everything is what I think it's going to be. Console log out my sandwich, and that should console log out the list of sandwiches. Aha! List item text content is not a function. Why not? Text content. Oh, so here's what you do. You believe the error. The error says text content is not a function, and that is in fact true. Text content is not a function. Text content is just something that you assign stuff to. There we go. Yeah. Been 15 weeks since I did this. Cool. So now we should see, there's our list. Great. Fantastic. And if we pop open our list here, we will see that, hey, it's made all of the list items for us there. This is something that you're going to be doing every day from here on out, pretty much. Yeah, so to break it down one more time, this is a pattern you're going to see very often. You're going to get some data, either whether it's sitting there or whether you grab it from somewhere else. It's usually going to be a list, but it might be something else that you have to figure out. You will get an element, usually by ID, that is on the page. It'll often be like an empty UL or maybe a div or something like that. You will loop through your list of data. And then for each thing in that, you will run a function. And that function will take each item in turn. And then inside that function, you can say, create me a new thing. So whether it's a list item or a paragraph or anything you can create there. You can either set the text content to it, or you can add other things inside it. You will often find yourself making more complex objects like, oh, here's a card of the sandwich info, and it's going to have an image and a title and a description and a button or something, and you can do all that in here. But for right now, we are just making a list item with text, and then we're going to append that text, append that list item element to our sandwich list element, and voila, list of sandwiches. Yeah, for loop, great question. The question is, would a for loop do the same things as for each? Yes, it would. So let's look at a different way to do it. There are, no matter what language it is and no matter what they claim, Python, there are always multiple ways of doing things. So we could definitely do a for each loop or for loop. We could do for, let I equals 0, I is less than sandwiches that length. I'm already tired. I plus plus. And then we can say add sandwich, and we need to use the index there. And voila, yes, there it is. So yeah, it does exactly the same thing. I have a preference. Guess which one I have a preference for and why? I definitely have a preference for each, because I can look at it and say, oh, for each sandwich in sandwiches, add the sandwich. Great. Having been using for loops for 35 years, this reads the same in my brain, but to my eyes, especially if there's more than one thing in there, it's like, oh, what I need to make sure they're doing that. I need to make sure it's not like, oh, add every other sandwich for some reason. There's more fiddly things that a for loop can do. Oh, do I want to add everything but the last one? Am I starting in a different index? There's a lot of things you can do with a for loop that aren't just looping through things. So it always takes an extra minute to look at that and be like, okay, I'm making sure that's doing the thing that I think it's doing. Great. But yeah, it does exactly the same thing. This one is easier to read for me. It's easier to say, oh, in the list of sandwiches, for each sandwich, add the sandwich. Much easier, much more semantically less complex to read. If you're not familiar with this syntax, or if you're still figuring out how for each sort, map, all that stuff works, this might take you that extra minute. Whereas if you're familiar with for loops, this will not. Definitely a matter of taste, for sure, 100%. Rule 3 efficiency, for each is a little bit slower. So if you're adding 10 million things to a list for some reason, for each will take a little bit longer, a few milliseconds, but not significantly. So they are identical. You can use either one for sure. You will definitely see this for each syntax more often in the world, but you will definitely see for loops everywhere, for doing all sorts of things as well. So short answer is understand them both, use whichever one feels better for you at the time. But yeah, I definitely prefer for each. Short digression on those. So there are, and you may or may not have gone through this stuff before, there are a bunch of array functions that we call them higher order functions in the curriculum, but they're just methods that take a function. And so there's things like sort and filter and reduce. This is my favorite. But so if we want these sorted in a certain way, you can actually chain these because they return stuff. So I can say, sandwiches sort for each, and then that should give me a list of sandwiches in alphabetical order, or I can filter on something. So and I can stack those up. I can say, filter for whatever. Not that. And again, this reads more like English to me. I can say, oh, sort the sandwiches and do this for each one. In here, it would be kind of the same. Well, you would have to separately sort the sandwiches and do that. So it adds more complexity. So yeah, in general, I default to this. But if this is extra thinking for you, especially on the Go challenge when time is of the essence, use the one that's more familiar to you and the one that makes more sense for you, for sure. Yeah, in terms of passing the test, it's a rule 1 test. If it works, it works. So yeah, whichever one does the job is the one to use. You'll get gold star if you do it in a fun way, but yeah, as far as passing it, whichever way works for you is the way it works. Cool. So we've looked at a bunch of stuff already. Talked for a while. So we've gone through selecting things. We've gone through creating things, appending things, looping through lists. We took a quick look at adding classes and styles and stuff, and setting the text content. There are a few different ways to do this line. So text content, I think, is the best practice way because it's the most descriptive. And again, there are very, very, very slight minor differences that you will never run into. You could also say inner text. That will do exactly the same thing. That will set the text inside that element. And you can kind of see that, no, it looks exactly the same. So that's another way to do it. Tote basically does exactly the same thing. You can also say inner HTML, which technically in this case is going to do the same thing. There we go. The big difference here is that if I say inner text and say like put a bold tag around it, and I'm going to need to put so this is just saying make a string that has this variable in it with bold tags around it. This interpolation, this what do they call it in JavaScript? My brain is in Python. Template literal is a template literal, which basically means when you put backticks around a string and then use $ curly brackets, it will put whatever the value of this is inside that string. So basically I'm saying for each one, instead of just putting the name, put the name with a bold tag around it. And now it's going to put a bold tag around it, which is not what we want. It's just adding that text to that element. If we want it to actually be HTML, take a big guess. It's going to be inner HTML, and that is going to put the tags around it and interpret it as HTML. I will definitely use inner HTML in the future to take shortcuts for stuff, and we'll talk about that when we get to it in a couple days probably. But yeah, so those are the ways of adding stuff to it. Yeah, all of these are great, depending on which ones feel good to you and which ones do things that you want to do, not in that order. And there's one more thing, I guess. We can also, as we can create, we can destroy. So we've got a header here, we've got some content. Here some content is, or that header is just out of place. So we can say, yeah, we can say, we're gonna do some dirty work down here. We're gonna get that header. We're going to document get element by ID. Console log that header, make sure we got it. Header. Cool, there's our header. And we are gonna whack that header. We're just gonna get rid of it. So we can say header remove. And that will just take it out of the page. You can always say HTML element remove, and that will do it. If you have something that is inside an element, so, oh, I don't want that pastrami in there, that first one, I could say something like, how do I want to do it? Sandwich list, remove child. And I don't have to say which one. Remove child, say, yeah, you give it the node. Oh, like it says right there, give it the node. I would say, you know, sandwich list, children, 0, get rid of that first one. So this is saying, get the children of the sandwich list, get the first one of those children and remove it. And so pastrami should be gone. There it is. So yeah, so when you need to remove something, you can either remove it off the element itself, or you can remove children of an element like that. And yeah, you'll be doing that occasionally. It's good to know. Our question in chat is, where's my chat window? There it is. Don't remember which lab this one specify why. Would pop work? Can you talk more about that? Oh, yeah. So pop will work on an array. So you can remove stuff with an array with that. But to get it out of the DOM, we need to use remove or remove child. Yeah. And that's the high level speed run of document object stuff. What questions do we have about any of the stuff we talked about? Yeah, Megan.
Hi. I'm looking through your code and like I'm seeing where everything's applying. Like I get the sandwiches, I get sandwich list, I get that we're adding like looping through the array of sandwiches, but what I'm not understanding is the add sandwich argument. Is that doing anything? Yeah, that one right there. I guess I'm just having a hard time understanding.
This one here on line 7. Yeah, so add sandwich is a function that we've written. And so the way that for each works is we're going to take the function. And in JavaScript, functions are just objects. So we can pass a function to a function. So for each is a function, and we're passing a function into it. We're giving that function an object. I like to describe it sometimes as the function object is like an envelope with the word add sandwich on the outside that has the instructions inside of what to do. And so we're going to hand that envelope to for each and say, for each one of those things, open up that envelope, do the instructions inside. So we're saying for each one of these, run the function add sandwich. We definitely do not want to put parentheses there because that will say run add sandwich and then whatever it returns, pass that to for each. That's usually not what we want. So we're saying add sandwich, run that function, and when you run it, pass the current one that you're in. So for each is going to start with our first element here, pastrami. So it's going to add sandwich. Yeah, it's going to say add sandwich pastrami. And it's going to say add sandwich, and so on. So every time it runs, it's going to pass each element in there. And so when we write our function, we want to say, hey, take an argument. In this case, we're going to call it sandwich because that's what it is. If this was a more generic thing that just like added text to a sandwich field, we could say just add the text. It doesn't care what it's called, again, as long as they're named the same thing where they need to be. In our case, we know it's going to be a sandwich. In fact, we know it's going to be sandwich name. So sandwich name might be a better word for it here. So it's passing in that string to our function. In our function, we're saying first thing we get passed in is our sandwich name, and then we're using a sandwich name to create our element. Does that kind of get at what you're looking for?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and again, this is like I know folks want to like look at function stuff. This is part of the function stuff. So we're going to be using those fundamental elements to build everything else. And you've literally been doing this for a day, so do not expect to be an expert just yet. Don't put that kind of pressure on yourself. Yeah, it's so wild. Every time it'll be like Wednesday on the first week, and people are like, "I don't know any of this stuff." I'm like, "You've literally been learning this for 2 days. Of course, you don't know it. No one's gonna learn it immediately. It's fine." Yeah, and we're gonna be practicing it for the next 15 weeks, so you'll get plenty of chance to get it burned in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, Zen, yeah.
Okay, so it kind of made sense what you're saying with the add sandwich.
Mhm.
thing, but can you kind of like just read us or like walk us through the whole function itself? Because like
Yeah.
before, when you didn't have the list item, it didn't do anything. So like I'm not really understanding. I don't know. If you can just break it down a little bit better.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks.
How's that? Cool. So each element, it's going to, so we've got our list of sandwiches. First off, it's an array of strings, an ordered list of strings. Arrays have our for each, so it's going to say this is a method on our array. So it's going to say, cool, take each one in order and run this function. Great. So we need to write the function. And again, the function could be called whatever we want. We just know it adds a sandwich, so we're calling it add a sandwich. So it's taking an argument, which is the string. We're calling it the sandwich name here. And then we are going to do our little list of instructions here. First thing we're going to do is so what's our intention with this function, I guess, first? Our intention is to add a new list item onto our, so we have an unordered list with the ID of sandwiches. We want, for each one of those items, we want to add a, let's back up. Just for add sandwiches, add sandwich just says we want a new list item with the string that you're giving me, and I want to put that list item on the sandwich list. So now that we've kind of, and this is, I don't think we talked about this enough. It's easy, and like you just saw me do it, just like throw code out there. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. You can save a lot of time by kind of just like taking a second to think, but like, okay, like what do I actually want to do here? I know I want to like put something on the list, but just saying like, okay, cool, I don't have any of this stuff here. What do I want to do? I want to add a sandwich to my unordered list. What does that mean? So I'm getting a string. This is a string. It takes a string. I want to, so what do I need to do? I need to add that string to the list. I know it's an unordered list. Unordered lists have list items in it. You know, I'm having a, let me put here so I can see it. So I have an unordered list that looks like this. And I want it to look like this. Sandwich. So I want to, when I get sandwich name, I want it to do that. So it's taking a string that has a sandwich name. So I need to, what do I need to do? Well, first I need to create this list item here. So I'm gonna create a new list item for the name. Cool. And so I have the string that has the name in it. So now I need to put the sandwich name in the list item. Cool. So I need to make that and put it in there. So I've created it. I want to add it to our lists. Okay, cool. So I'm going to, I need to get that, find, select the sandwich list, UL element. I need to add, or not add, I need to append it. I need to put it inside, but the list item on the append it. That's what it's called. Great. And so now that I know what it does, I've kind of broken down what I need to do to accomplish that, then I can start writing code. So now I can say, okay, cool, I'm going to create a new list item. Create a new list item. Great. I need to hang on to it because I'm going to be doing stuff with it. Cool. I need to add the sandwich name to that. Cool. So I'm going to take the string that I got. I'm going to set the text content of that item to that sandwich name because that tells me what the text of that item is going to be. Great. And up here, I'm getting sandwich list up here. Maybe this doesn't exist up here. Maybe I need to do this in here. So cool, I'm going to select the sandwich list element in here. So I need to do a document, get element ID, sandwiches. Yeah, it has sandwiches, great. So I can get that there and then hang on to that element because I need to do my last thing, which is put the list item on that. Cool. So now it should be doing all the things I want to do. Then I'll test it out, and hopefully it does what I want. Hey, it does what I want. So yeah, so really like asking to break it down is super great because again, when you talk to people who've been programming for a long time, that just kind of happens. But it doesn't just kind of happen. It's just that we've done this 10,000 times. And so that little pathway is quicker. But still, we're going through all these steps, right? We're still saying, what do I want my thing to do? What am I passing into it? Am I returning anything from this? I don't think so. And then just kind of like breaking down the task of, oh, I want to add this to the list. Sounds easy, but everything needs to get broken down. If I want to make a sandwich, I need to figure out what ingredients. I need to go get the bread. I need to take the bread out of the bag. I need to put a piece of bread on the table. I need to put mayonnaise on the bread. I need to get the mayonnaise out of the fridge. I need to open it. I need to get a knife. I need to put breaking down things is how we do stuff. We just don't think about it most of the time. It's like make a sandwich. So in here, we just have to, since it's not a thing that we do every day yet, we need to stop and think and break it down. So we want to create a new list item for the name. So, and this is going to be a new empty list item, right? Create that empty list item, hang on to it, add the string to that list item. Now it's just floating out there by itself. I need to grab the list, and I need to append that item to the list. And again, none of this is intuitive. And the first 100 times you do this, you're going to have to think it through step by step, probably. And if a step doesn't make sense, that's when you kind of, and again, like this is, I'm laying out steps for you. Coming up with this by yourself, a million times harder. And so the thinking in pseudocode part, the list of instructions here without the code. When someone's stuck, and someone includes me, when someone's stuck on like how would I do this? I know I need to complete this task with this function. I have no idea where to start. And I'll often say, oh, well, start working through the steps, and people start writing code. Like, no, I don't need code. Just write down the steps. And so thinking through writing out steps, and then before writing any code, kind of like, okay, cool. Like I'm gonna look through these steps and kind of like mentally walk through them and see if I'm missing anything. Maybe I am, I don't know, but now it's time to write code. And then we start translating every step into JavaScript and then run it. And maybe it doesn't work. So then we like make sure we're not skipping a step. And often skipping a step means assuming something like, oh, I just assume, I assume when I create something, it's going to be added to the thing. No, it's not, or it might not be. And every language is different. So there's a different set of assumptions for everything that you need to kind of think about. So yeah, the coding part is a small part, I think, of what we do. The actual like writing code part, the majority of the work is figuring out what the hell we're going to do in the first place and coming up with those steps. So if that's confusing, you are in good company because that's what we're doing. Does that help at all?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Hyro, see your hand first.
When it comes to list item with the notation of like text content,
Mhm.
the text content portion of it, is that just saying that, I don't know, I said that you say put the sandwich name in the list item. So basically the sandwich name that we have is getting put into the, yeah, I'm just a little bit confused about the text content. Like, what is that? Is it a string that's being passed? Like, I'm kind of confused.
Exactly. Yeah. So we are, we're for each is taking each one of these items. So we're taking the string pastrami, we're passing it add sandwich. And so we're saying here, this is that. So basically,
Oh, okay.
yeah, on an HTML element, setting the text content says, take that string and put it in there. And it isn't equals, not a function. I forget that like half the time because it's not a method, it's a property. And again, if we want to look up on MDN, text content. If for some reason we forget, which I always do, we can see, oh, it's a property. What does that mean? I don't know what a property is. Oh, look at the example. Great. And you can see, oh, okay, it's just setting it equals to it. Yeah, cool. So basically what you said is just putting that string inside that item.
Okay, that makes sense. Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. David.
Everything makes sense in terms of the steps. I think where I'm getting tripped up is that, and it's just, I'm sure it's because it's like day 1.5, but you're going from the items in the array, which don't have, there's nowhere previous to the function did you name them sandwich name. You're just basically saying when you create add sandwich that these are the sandwich names.
Yeah.
And that is, I guess, a little bit, that's what you're saying, I guess. And as that leap is kind of tripping me up a little bit.
Yeah, great. So sandwich name here is, we are making our function, so we get to decide what the parameters are called that we're passing in. Again, like if we were just saying we're going to add some, some text to this, we could call it text or the label or the product or whatever. So basically, this is a placeholder. When we make a function and we add an attribute to its definition, and sometimes it's easy to kind of gloss over this because we do it all the time, but this is where this is our definition. This is where defining a process. We are saying when you want to add a sandwich and someone gives you this, here are the steps to do that thing. And if someone gives you this, that is, and we can have, more than one thing here if we want to. We're saying the first thing that you pass in here, we are going to stamp that product. We're going to put that in a variable named product, and then we can use the value of that variable throughout our function. And so we are calling it sandwich name. Sandwich string, string. We can call it whatever we want as long as it matches. So we're saying the text content, we want to make sure that text content is the thing that's getting passed in or getting passed in first.
Yeah, I see that. I think that the trip where I'm getting tripped up is going from sandwiches.for each add sandwich here down to there, which is the connection that I'm.
Yeah. So this is the cool thing about functions. If we say we don't have this list, say we don't have that for each. This function still exists and it still does the thing we're asking it to do. So if we say add sandwich pastrami, we're still calling that function. We're still passing in. I'm gonna do a PB&J. We're saying add sandwich with the string PB&J. So we're saying, cool, look at these instructions, give it this string, and then do what it says. And it should just give us the PB&J. So
Okay.
we
Now I
can
get it.
yeah, so this is kind of like a generic set of stuff. And once we write it and we're confident that it works, we don't even need to look at the inside. We just know there's a function called add sandwich. It takes a string and it's going to do some stuff with it. And however we get that there is up to us. We can have we could write a function that says give me a hoagie, and all it does is return hoagie. And we could say, cool, add sandwich, give me a hoagie. And that will add hoagie, hopefully, to our page. Yeah, great. We could do a for each with it. We could call it independently. We could have it fire off when we click a button. However we make add sandwich go, it's going to do the same thing. So in this case, for our purposes, we're saying I have a list of sandwich strings. I want to put those strings in my UL. Oh, what a happy coincidence. I just happen to have a function that does that. And so then we can pass that function in there to do that. And again, we're passing the name of the function. We're not calling it in there. So just passing the name and saying, hey, I got a list of instructions called add sandwich. Use those for each one of those things. Does that help out a little bit?
Yeah, the last thing is I have just reviewing the content over the last 24 hours, and I have it in my mind that when you call a function, you always want to pass something into it. When you're calling add sandwich, the first instance there for each add sandwich, you are not passing something into it by
right. Yeah, and that's actually a really interesting observation. You are not passing something into it. For each is passing something into it. So basically, what's happening here is, for each is something that's built into arrays. This is an array, and for each says go through each item in the array and call. Basically, what this is doing is, I think someone's got me. There we go. What this is doing is it's saying, okay, cool. I'm going to add sandwich pastrami, add sandwich, add sandwich meatball.
All right, that is exactly where I was getting tripped up. It was there. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
that's what for each is essentially doing for us, right?
Exactly. And you know what? If this array was never going to change, that does exactly the same thing. Those two pieces of code are identical. It's just that, if we add another sandwich to here, we want to do stuff with it. Or if we get that list of sandwiches from somewhere else, from a function or from a server or something, we want to be able to say, whatever's in that list, do the stuff to that list. But if you have that static list and don't know what for each is, you can just do that. Or if we could do the for loop that does that, and that breaks down to add sandwich, sandwiches 0, sandwiches 1, sandwiches 2, sandwiches 3, sandwiches 4. So this is essentially what for each is doing, or for loop, right? So there's a bunch of different ways to do the same kind of thing. Just some ways are easier to think about, and again, easier to manage. If I have my PB and J in here, and if I'm doing more than one thing to it, I don't have to do that thing each time. So that's why we have for loops and for each and stuff like that. Does that help get a hang of
what's that's a little bit maddening, but sure.
Welcome to programming. It's maddening. Yes, absolutely.
I'll just have to get used to the maddening part. That's thank you.
Yeah, you never get used to it, but you do become accustomed to it for sure. Cool. Isaiah,
could you go over the last part again, how you were taking it away?
Oh, the delete?
Yes.
Yeah. So we've created our stuff here. And I can just say, well, I did it with a header before. So I can grab the header. I'm gonna document element by ID, the header. And then I can just say header delete. Header remove. That's what it is, remove. Like that. And so that will, if you have an item, it will remove it from the DOM. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, could you do it with the list?
Yeah, sure. You can, I want to remove the list. I'll say the sandwich list is the sandwiches. And then bloop, get rid of that list. Yeah, as long as you can get an element, you can remove it. You can even do, if I wanted to, I can't do it for each on that. Yeah, as long as you get the element, you can remove it. Short version. Hannah.
You did like the header that remove. I was wondering, I don't know if this is important, but if you did like, I don't know if this is gonna work, but if you did like header that inner HTML code, will it do the same thing?
If we do the
No, I mean,
well,
but
here,
the line 24,
line 24.
yeah. So if you did like that remove,
Mhm.
I think it do the same as that inner HTML, and then you put quotation in the parentheses.
Like, is this what you're saying?
No, I'm sorry.
So-
No, I mean like, and I'm just wondering if you did like new line, and then if you did header, and then
Oh, if I look at
that inner HTML, and
yeah,
then what happened if you did in quotation?
so if I wanted to look at the inner HTML there,
And you need the I mean you need parentheses.
I'm sorry, I don't think I'm understanding.
Okay, I mean after inner HTML you put the parentheses.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm trying to, and then you put quotation in the parentheses. Would it be the same thing for remove?
Oh, I know what you're asking. Yeah. This is a great question. Yeah, so you're asking if I set the inner HTML to nothing. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the way.
Yeah, great. So interesting question. Let's look at the two different ways that it does. So let's look at the remove first, or let's look at it without the remove first. This is a really great question. Thank you for asking it. So here's my header. Here's my H1. Great. That's what it looks like in the page. If I do the header remove, it is going to completely, oh, not the header. Let me get the header out again. Sorry. Cool. So if I do the header remove, it is removing that element from the DOM, removing it from the tree, the page. So that H1 is not there at all anymore. If I set the inner HTML to nothing, the H1 is still there, but there's nothing inside the tag. So it looks the same, but it's not the same because before it wasn't there at all, and now it is still there. There's just nothing in it. And that might be the effect that you want. Because we just have it sort of basic. Let's look at this. I'm going to say, an H1. So I'm going to put some styling on it. H1 is it's a block element, so I can put a border on it, and it's a 2-pixel green solid line. And I can give it a height is 2M, and width of 100%. Cool. So this should make it a big box with a, if I don't remove it. So this should make a big box with a green border. Give me a green border. Where's my green border?
You misspelled it.
Did I spell it? Border agreed. That's not a color. Cool. So now that box is there. It has a green border. That's my H1. So if I remove it, it's going to take that whole thing away. So boop, pulled completely out. If I just set the inner HTML to nothing, it removes the content, but the element is still there. You can still see it on the page. Which may or may not be what you want. In this case, probably not, but different things do different things. Does that kind of help answer what you're saying?
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. Great question though. Yeah. Because it looks the same at first, but yeah, it's doing different stuff under the hood. That's really, really good question. Oh yeah, Azani says in chat, this is an example of hoisting, putting this function down here. When you when you use a function declaration like this, basically what JavaScript does is it goes through the file once. If it sees function declarations, it's like, cool, we got a function. And then it will go through and start running stuff and using that function. So we can actually use it here before we define it down here. You can also define it up top if you want. If we use a function expression instead, so if we say add sandwich equals function that, it should give us some problems. Yeah, can't access add sandwich before initialization. So this is a function expression, and remember, an expression is something that returns a value. So we're saying when this runs, create a function and assign it to that. Since we're using it before we assign it, just like if we did, add sandwich equals 3, we can't use that before we assign it. So most of the time, I will default to this when I'm just writing functions for general use. But yeah, that can be confusing if you think about it too much. Yeah, so just something to keep in mind. Not necessarily something you'll have trouble with often, but when you do, it's good to know. But again, you'll discover through experience. Zen.
Okay, yeah, so since you're doing the for each instead of the other way to do it, because the other way to do it is technically like a loop, right?
Yeah, if you did our for loop.
So then how would you, if you do the for each, how would you add a sandwich without actually adding one to the current sandwich list?
Let me see if I understand what you're saying. So we do our instead of our for each, we do a for loop. Is there an expander for that? Is there? Do I say, hey, yeah? That's awful. I'm not gonna do that. 0 I is less than sandwiches length plus sandwiches 0. Cool. So in theory, that should do the same thing. All pastrami. Let's do sandwiches I. How about that? Great. So are you asking if we just want to add another sandwich later on? So if we say add sandwich PB&J, B&J, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, exactly. Would you do it the exact same way with the for each? Because you're not necessarily adding it to the array itself.
I got you. Yeah, this is a great question too. Oh, you guys are so good. Cool. So this is actually like a philosophical question, right? So here's what we're doing. Let's console log our sandwiches. So console log our sandwiches before we add the fluffernutter, and we're getting that list PB&J. If we console log our sandwiches afterwards as well, our sandwich array is not changing, but fluffernutter is on the page. So what is on the page is not matching what's in the array that we're going through because we're adding stuff manually. Which is fine for us here now. But if, for example, we wanted to use that list elsewhere in the code, and we want to make sure what's in the list matches up with what's on the page, doing this is going to throw us off. Even though it's doing what we want, we're putting the fluffernutter on the page. So what's a way we can work around that? Well, instead of adding it manually like that, we could do something like say, oh, okay, I'm gonna say sandwiches push, we're gonna add a new sandwich on that. Sandwiches push. So is that gonna do it? Let's take a look. Nope, that doesn't do it either. But it is, so that's in the array, but it's not on the page. So cool. Let's just go ahead and I'm gonna do the for each way again, just for clarity. So I'm just gonna do the same thing I did before. And in fact, what I'm gonna do, let me do this instead. I'm gonna write another function. I'm just gonna call it render sandwiches. And this is the function I'm gonna call that just says do exactly what we did. So we're just kind of breaking down that functionality. So we've got our list of sandwiches. We're going to run our render sandwiches function. That's going to do our for each, add all the sandwiches to the list. Great, that does what we expect. So I'm going to add a new thing to the list. And I'm just going to render sandwiches again. So now I know that I've got that list of sandwiches. When I run my render sandwiches function, it's going to take everything on that list and put it on the UL. Uh-oh, it did what we wanted. So I'm going to make one little adjustment here. I'm going to get rid of everything off the list. And there's a couple ways we can do it. The recommended way of doing it is grabbing our sandwiches list. And doing like a child nodes for each, remove the thing. That's too much typing. I'm just going to say inner HTML equals empty, like we just did before. So I'm just gonna empty out that inner HTML. So now every time I render sandwiches, I'm gonna start off with a fresh empty UL, and then I'm gonna go through my list and add all the sandwiches. And that did it. Great. Even though I'm running it twice, I'm running it once for this and once for that. After I add it to the list, you don't even see the first one happen. So this is also a pattern that you're actually going to see often, because you might have like a to-do list where you want to add an item, and you can just add it to the list, but then like if you want to change it or delete it later, you have to go find the thing in the HTML and rummage through it. I'm always a huge fan of keeping your data and your presentation of that data, your view, completely separate, so you don't run into problems with that. Again, this is kind of like high level theoretical philosophical stuff that probably doesn't make any sense right now, but you will run into it, and you will try both ways and see which way works best for you. Awesome. Did that get at all at what you were talking about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Ooh, awesome. We're almost at time. That was a long time. Anything else we want to hit in the last couple minutes here? Yeah, const versus let array. Good question. What was throwing you off was manipulating a const versus a let array. This will be the last thing. So arrays and objects in JavaScript are reference types. What does that mean? So if you have a const, I'm going to do this in the console, it'll be easier. I have a const name equals Mark. Great. Name is Mark. If I want to say, actually my name is Dave. No way. Okay, cool. I'm going to make an array. Array const array equals names. No, const array const names. There we go. It's getting to be lunchtime. Blood sugar is low. Const names equals Mark and Sarah. Great. Names is Sarah. Names Mark and Sarah. Great. If I say names 0, which is the first one, equals Dave. Hey, that works just fine. Why is that? Our names. So strings, numbers, booleans, those are literals, meaning when there's only one number 23. There's only one string dachshund. When you assign that to a constant, you're saying that thing is that literal thing. You cannot change it. Numbers are literals. When you are assigning something, when you're assigning an array to a variable, whether it's a constant or not, you are not assigning the array itself to that constant. You are assigning the address in memory of where that chunk of data is, because that chunk of data is arbitrary size, it can change. So the way it works under the hood is it says that array you're looking for is over there at location 10,000, which is a number. So we can say, hey, take the stuff at that location and alter it, which is fine. What we can't do is say, hey, I'm going to make a new array with thing 1 and thing 2. Great, I can change arrays, right? Nah. When you're trying to create a new array, you're saying, hey, get rid of that old address, put in the new address. It's saying that address is a literal, I can't do that. So short version is you can always change the contents of arrays and objects when they're constants. The thing that's constant is the location and not the contents. The analogy I use is like a street address. Mark's house is at 123 Main Street. Great. That's a constant. I can't change that constant. I can't move. What I can do is change the furniture. I can repaint the house. I can get a new couch. I can change what's in that constant address, but I can't change the address itself. So I will generally, unless I know something's going to be changing, I'll pretty much use constants all the time. And if I get a hey, you can't do that with a constant, I'll make it a let. So in general, yeah, you can change the contents of an array, but you can't change the address of it, basically. And this will show up in other weird ways where you say, here's my names equals, yeah, let's do that again. Here's my names. And I'll be like, oh, I'm actually going to make another array called users, and that's just going to be names, same as names. So if I look at names, great. If I look at users, great. I want to add a new user. Great. I'm going to push a new user onto that. Users push. Type. I'm going to push Dave onto the users array. Dave onto the users array. Great. So if I look at users now, perfect. Exactly what I expect. Let's look at the names array. Oh, it's the same thing. Because I said names is at 123 Main Street. Users is that same address. So when I change the furniture in that house, it changes for both names. This is one of those maddening things that you will get used to, maybe eventually. Yeah, and this is definitely going to come up more in phase 2 with React. But yeah, this is just JavaScript. This is just how JavaScript works. A lot of languages work the same way. Python works the same way for a lot of things. It's just a peculiarity of how it's implemented. What's the command to create a different array or to copy the array? Ooh, yeah, I'll give you some secrets. Yeah, spread operator is one way to do it. So I can say instead of, here's my people, constant people. So if I spread it out, basically what I'm saying is, here's a new array. There's a thing called a spread operator. It's 3 dots that basically says, take the contents of this other thing. So basically what's saying is I'm creating a new array and I'm putting all the contents of that other array inside it. So that's a new array. So if I look at names, people, same thing. If I say, people pop, we're just going to take the first name off there, last name off there. If I look at people, great. If I look at names, they're now different arrays. There are a few different ways to do that. This is the most readable one in modern JavaScript, but if you Google around, you'll find other ways to do it. Great question. Cool. That puts us 2 hours. That's a lot of talking, a lot of listening. Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, let me stop sharing here. Where's the button? Awesome. Cool. That is a lot of stuff. You're absolutely not expected to remember everything that I said for sure. Yeah, this has been recorded. It'll be up on the playlist soon. I'll put a link to the video in the channel. Yeah, the only reason that I know the stuff is because I've been doing it for a very long time. And when they add new things, it takes a while to remember to learn it. So this is all unintuitive and confusing at first, 100% for sure. And the only way to get it locked in is to do it a whole bunch, to make the typey with your fingers and make mistakes and figure out why those mistakes are happening and figure them out. And then maybe next time when you make that same mistake, you'll have a better idea of what to do. Maybe not. Sometimes it takes a while. So yeah, practice, practice, practice. This will be available to watch again if you want to watch it again. Yeah, let's go to lunch. Thanks for hanging out. I'll post stuff in the channel when it's up, and I'll see you at stand down.